What's up, everybody? So as you saw from the title, I literally built this iPhone 6 for $50. It was actually less than $50. I'll get into more of the details in a minute, but pretty much what happened and a little bit of the background story was that I bought this iPhone 6 several months ago. I would have to say probably in November of 2017, and I saw it on eBay and I was like, you know what, it's $40. I clicked on it and I clicked on the listing obviously, and it said that it had an iCloud lock, it had bad Touch ID, and it had a bad IMEI number, and he was asking $40 at the time, and I already knew it was already worth probably $50 in parts. So I emailed the guy and I messaged him. I was like, bro, can you take 10 for it? He was like, no, I can't do that, it's too low. I was like, what's the lowest you can do? He was like, about 30. I was like, dude, can you do 17? I'll buy it right now. He said, okay, yeah, I'll do 17. So I had to pay 17 for it, free shipping and everything. He shipped it over to my house, and it's literally been sitting in my drawer for so many months. So a month ago, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna try to iCloud bypass this. So I went and tried to do it, all those versions that I talk about and everything. The problem was I wasn't sure what version of iOS this was running. I would assume iOS 11, so I kind of messed with all of it, but I couldn't figure it out. So this thing must have been really messed up somehow. I don't even know. So then what I had to do was, I was like, there's only one other option I can do, and that's replace the logic board within it. So I had to go and actually buy a logic board, and the logic board itself was $40, which isn't really that big of an amount, but you have to remember that I had to go and fix it myself because I wasn't about to tell somebody else to fix it. That's a stupid amount of money. They're going to charge $60 just to fix it. So what I ended up having to do was buy a tool set on eBay. And the problem with that is, it's $1.09. So that's practically, it's almost free, right? And you get a super cool amount of tools. But the problem is they come from China, and there's nothing wrong with getting things from China. Half of my stuff I get is from China, but they have to ship it from China to America. And that took stupid amount of time. It took a month and a half just to get here. Actually more towards a month, and it was ridiculous. So I was waiting every single day, and it was just these tools right here. It was a screwdriver, a small amount, very small sizes, and the plastic pry tips and all that. And I think it's well worth over $1, especially in America. These things go for $4, $5, $6, $7 here, so it's kind of crazy. So what I ended up doing was, while I was making the video, I was tearing apart my phone, I was filming it, and I was watching a tutorial on how to do it at the same time. So I want to preface this whole thing by saying, before I go further, here's the logic board, and the Touch ID is here too. So like I said, the Touch ID did not work on this phone. I did not replace Touch ID here. I kind of do wish I did, because I would have been able to have a functioning Touch ID on my phone, but really it's not that big of a deal. But that, if you haven't seen a logic board for an iPhone, that's pretty much what it looks like. I think with the iPhone 10 it looks a little bit different, but it's pretty much the same concept. It's literally underneath everything, so you have to tear apart everything before you can even get into it. So here I'm actually tearing apart the phone, and the SIM card, I ejected it and everything, took out the screws from the bottom. And the hardest thing I would say about this whole process was keeping track of the screws. I haven't taken apart an iPhone probably since the iPhone 3GS. So, I was literally, I don't remember how many screws that took, and I wasn't really scared of breaking it. This was years and years ago. So this thing is super hard. I can only imagine what the iPhone 10 you have to do in order to pry that apart. I heard it's easier, but I don't know. I don't know too much about tearing apart phones. What ended up happening was I forgot to turn it off and power it off. So that's kind of, before you even go further, always remember to power off your device. So you can see there's the battery right there, and if you look around the battery, that is actually the logic board. So it kind of starts towards the bottom of the battery and goes up to about where the Apple logo is on the battery. So here you saw me take apart the display. Here I'm taking apart the camera, and what I want to say is, like I said, the screws, keeping apart of them is the hardest thing ever. And obviously I'm hitting the camera, it's not perfect. I'm watching a tutorial while I'm filming, so it's and taking apart a phone, so it's not going to be perfect. And I want to say, what I did taking apart everything, it wasn't monumental. I didn't discover something crazy. I would say the most interesting part about this would definitely be the price. It was the amount of cheapness I can get it for, if that's a word. Literally, what happened was, here I am taking apart the logic board, and what ended up happening was I couldn't get some of the screws out, so I had to actually pry the plastic pieces out, and the screws were still stuck in them. So I don't know what happened there. This phone was water damaged, and I saw that, so maybe that has something to do with it, but the screen and everything still works, so there really wasn't too much of a problem there. So here I am putting the new logic board in. So I took the old one out and put the new one in, and I'm just kind of going through and I'm putting on all the screws, and what happened was I completely lost track of all the screws, so I literally didn't even remember where half of them went. Here you can see I'm just trying to see if they fit, but yeah, I couldn't figure out half the screws where they went. So I ended up having a whole bunch of screws left over that didn't fit anywhere, so I just kind of left them. So that's kind of a huge problem with this. I mean, if you're gonna do this with your daily driver or a phone you plan on reselling, don't do it. Don't mess up somebody else's phone like that. I don't plan on reselling this phone. I just plan on jailbreaking it and then just keeping it on the channel if it's jailbreakable, because I already have like 3 iPhone 6s, so what am I gonna do with another one? I'll just have this on an older version of iOS. And that's kind of what my thought process was at the time. I wasn't sure what version of iOS the logic board was on, because when you replace it, literally it's like getting a whole new phone. It's a different phone operator, it's a different IMEI number, it's a different iCloud account, all that stuff changes. So you have to remember that when you're changing these things out. But here I am, I'm taking apart all the screws and everything, and I'm putting the camera in now. As you can see above the iPhone SE, that's where the Touch ID was. And like I said earlier, I do low-key wish I fixed it, because I have to take apart the whole phone again, take out all the screws, we'll just take out the display and rearrange the display, take it apart and put the Touch ID in. I just kind of wish while the phone was open, I just did it. But yeah, this whole process, and I made it look like taking apart the logic board was easy. It really wasn't too hard, but it definitely wasn't easy. It definitely was time consuming. Some of the screws, like I said, wouldn't come out properly. The guy who was showing the tutorial and taking apart the iPhone, he did a very, very good job. He could have easily said, just take apart all the screws, this and that, but luckily he didn't. He took it part by part and showed it, so that was super awesome of him to do that. As you can see, that little orange connector right there, that is actually the antenna connector. So what ended up happening was, that's the hardest part to get in, because it's so small, and I don't really know what that does. It might be the phone antenna, so you can't get like cell signal if that's not plugged in, but I don't know what it was. And I was using a metal screwdriver. That was the dumbest thing ever. You want to use something plastic. So then going further, I ended up just putting everything back together. All these little pieces, I ended up putting the display back together. And the thing with the display is, you have to like put one piece in at a time. You can't just put all of them in. Obviously you shouldn't do that. So you have to put like one piece in, then the one on top, and one on top, and one on the side, and they all have to fit perfectly. If they don't fit perfectly, then you're gonna have problems with your display. And it's kind of weird how like it's like easy to take apart an iPhone, like the display, but it's so hard to do anything else with it. So here I am putting everything back together. I'm kind of pushing everything in. So what ended up happening was, when I tried powering it on, for some reason it did not power on. So I was freaking out, and I kind of laughed to myself. I'm like, it probably doesn't work. So then what ended up happening was, I plugged it in, and as you can see, it perfectly worked. I still got the thing that Touch ID didn't work, which is perfectly fine, but as you can see, I don't have an iCloud account attached to it. I don't have anything attached to it. So that's super awesome. That's super sick. Like I said, this wasn't monumental. The biggest problem I can see was that the display didn't fit properly on it. So there were some problems with it. It didn't attach properly, which is perfectly fine. But I don't really see myself using this as a daily driver or anything like that, obviously. It's more like seeing if I can do it. I would not really recommend anybody doing it, because if you want to do it for like a spare phone you have, or like something like that, but don't plan on like getting an iPhone 8 Plus and replacing the logic board or whatever just to have a phone cheaper, because not only can that cause problems and possibly break your device, but if you plan on reselling it, the warranty is pretty much out of the question, because you replaced it yourself, and the parts within it aren't necessarily for that serial number and stuff. So I don't know if the Apple employee or Apple store or Apple company will be able to find a way to find that out, but just know that you'll probably almost be ripping somebody off if you plan on reselling a phone like this. So I don't plan on reselling it or anything. I plan on keeping it for the 100th time. Another thing I want to note, the reason I said this price was less than $50 is, you can see if you tally it up, I spent $40 on the logic board and $17 on the iPhone. The reason I say, even though it's $57, is why I say it's less than $50, is because the logic board, I replaced it with the one that has the iCloud account and bad IMEI number. That is still worth something. And if I had to put a number on it, I've seen some of these go for around $15 to $20. So somewhere around the cost of this iPhone that I bought. So I would say 100%, if I sold that, the cost would, even if I sold it for $10, the cost of the total iPhone repair would probably be less than $50. It would probably be around $47, $48, including the tool set. So that's pretty much my analysis on everything. But yeah, I kind of talk further, but like I said, for the 100th time, do not do this by yourself. And as far as I know, everything works. And it's pretty interesting what you can do with just like a small amount of time. It's a small little project. It's kind of fun. Like I said, I didn't do anything monumental or anything, but it's kind of cool. And that is pretty much it. There's really not much to it. I'm going to go in and I'm going to further test it, make sure everything works. As far as I know, it does. The only thing that doesn't work is Touch ID, which is understandable, because the person who sent it to me also sent me, like I said, the Touch ID thing. So I can definitely go and I can just go ahead and get this fixed up. And I might as well have done it while I was inside the phone. But I'm like, I don't really want to go through it again. I'm just like so tired of it. And it's kind of funny because the iOS 12 betas are out. iOS 11.4 betas or whatever. I don't even know when 11.4.1 is going to come out. But I never had a device that was still stuck on iOS 11.2.5. I'm kind of actually low-key kind of glad that I can go ahead and still jailbreak, because Electro Jailbreak just came out for 11.2.1 and below. So I can go ahead and just jailbreak that, and that'd be it. Now, one thing that's actually a problem is that the screen isn't fully in. I mean, I'm kind of salty about that a little bit because it's almost flush, but not really. I'm not really sure what the problem is. I don't know if something's sticking out from the inside or something, but honestly, it's whatever. Like, for the first time, it's really not much. I can't complain too much. But guys, that is pretty much it. I'll let you guys update it and see if anything happens to it. I doubt it will. It's probably going to stay the same. If you guys have any questions or anything, leave it down in the comment section below. Hit that like button. That'll mean so much. But definitely hit that subscribe button. Like I said, as of this point, depending on when you're watching, we're still doing the iPhone 6s and iPhone SE giveaway. So if you're interested in having an iPhone without having to freaking repair the whole thing or just a logic board, all you have to do is follow me on Twitter and Instagram and hit that subscribe button. All those links are down in the description, so make sure you enter that. But more importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys, and hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.